as we said at the beginning, the sessions are 2 classes per phase in the WeLand. So there's 6 phases of the WeLand. But if you want, what we've done internally is done an agenda of who's teaching which day, because we're not going to be here, Oscar and I always. You're going to have many other people coming in who are lovely and very, very experienced in their fields. So if you're interested, maybe you can do a hands up if you want, like our kind of internal detailed who does what. We can upload that as well. Yeah. Okay. Super. Yeah. Okay. So I can make it a little bit prettier and send it on Slack as well. Okay. So I think we're getting to be quite a lot now. Alex, I don't know if you wanted to, if you had any housekeeping things, and then we can go ahead with the agenda.
Yeah, I'll start. There you go. Okay, hello everybody. For those who couldn't assist to the other sessions, my name is Alex Espuña. I work as a communicator for Resilience Earth, and I'm the coordinator of this training. I would like to remember you a few rules that we will have to follow during the Zoom sessions. The first one is when you enter the Zoom and when the trainers speak, you should have your microphones muted. Please keep your camera turned on as much as you can. Write your name and surname in your video profile so we can know who you are. It would be great if you can divide your screen into parts, one for the Zoom and the other one for the tasks that we will do during the session. To participate, we will use hand signals. I will leave you here in the chat a little picture that explains it all, but to resume it, this means technical point, this means information point, this means clear proposal, this means opinion, this means agree, this means disagree, this means no opinion, repetition, and silent applause. You have all these rules in the Slack channel #internal-rules, so you can have a look at them whenever you want. And if you have any questions, you can send them in the chat and we will try to answer them during the training. And all the questions that are not answered during the sessions will be answered during the week in Slack as soon as we can. And if you have any questions after the session, you can send them to the Slack channel #99general or #2landscapeintegrity before Thursday. And that's all. I pass it to Erica.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you so much, Alex, and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being very, very on time. So I would invite everybody to get into the link of, just a second, the Community Catalyst Training Session 3. Not sure if everybody has it, or Alex, maybe you can send it again. Thank you so much. Great. Okay, so if you go to the slide, oh, just a second, actually, now that I have everybody's faces, does everybody have a computer that they're using, or is anybody on their cell phone? So computer, let's say computer, just to get an idea. Okay, super. All right, because it is a bit harder with a cell phone. So maybe if you can just, it seems like maybe 1 or 2 people are on their cell phone, correct? Yeah. Okay, so we'll try and keep that in mind. So if the people on cell phones, you need to see a screen share, then just shout out. Total confianza. Huh? Okay, so for today, we're going to start deep diving actually into the next phase. And the next phase is landscape integrity, which is essential for regenerative development and clearly for community catalysts who are doing their work at the community or small scale level, also with organizations. So for today, what we're going to do is share the video called WeLand, video number 2, which you can also find on the YouTube channel for Community Catalysts, which has all 6 videos. If you want to watch ahead, you can. And then we're going to break out into small groups to review the exercise 2. So there's a bit of an error because we wanted to give you some more time at that point. So that's 15 minutes. Sorry, I didn't update that. Storytelling. So we'll do a little bit of storytelling around Haudenosaunee and Chicana indigenous nations. I myself am from the Quechua nation, which has the Chicana, and but I also grew up right beside Haudenosaunee traditional lands and unceded territory. So I have the privilege also of being able to share with you also some of those philosophies and frameworks as well. And then we'll break out into rooms to talk about the importance of these more ancestral frameworks and linking them to activist frameworks as well. And then we'll go into what is called evolutive or evolutionary interdependence, and then do a bit of think in small groups on who are we, and then introduce, for those of you who don't know the concept of Autopolicies, we're going to introduce that, and then explain the homework for today, for next Friday, next Monday. Are there any questions? Sound good? Yeah, all right. Okay, super. So I will then hand it over to Alex to share the video with us, and then we'll deep dive.
Yep. And let me know if you can hear it well.
Hello and welcome. You are now entering the landscape dimension of WeLand, a collective and emergent design process tool. We call this a metacard because once you go through, you'll land in the landscape dimension of WeLand, the first of 5 dimensions. But to go in, you first need to position yourself about your relationship to land and landscape. So, what is landscape? Well, the European Landscape Convention says that it is an area of land whose character is the result of the actions and interactions of human and natural factors. But that's just the beginning. How deep do you want to go down the rabbit hole? Let's see. We are walking on top of a floating sphere in the middle of the universe that has been evolving for ages. First, the geological and morphological processes began evolving, followed by the ecological processes. These defined the biosphere of Earth, where human communities settled and evolved, and where these communities defined their singular cultures through their distinct ways of relating and adapting to their environment. It is this relationship between communities and nature that defines the process that has developed the landscape. So, landscape is therefore a systemic expression of physical, cultural, and emotional processes, and therefore shares the essence of the community itself. This may seem pretty complex, and I guess that makes sense, as life is complex. For this reason, we are proposing WeLand as a tool to help manage and sustain complexity. Are you aware of how much complexity you can sustain? Let's see. How do you experience landscape? As you know, a paradigm is the way we understand the world we live in. There are many paradigms that coexist in our communities. Some of them are very old, others are fairly new, and they are all constantly evolving. The first paradigms emerged a long time ago, when humanity was in a stage focused on covering basic needs, a somewhat reactive paradigm to its context. Perhaps you remember the Maslow pyramid? Well, this would be the lowest level. This paradigm is still present in our society today, in communities that have been through deep trauma like war, migration, a dictatorship, etc. In these cases of strong structural violence, the evolution of our cultures experiences a reset, and we have to start from the beginning. Sometimes even losing the memory of how it was before. This paradigm defines the features of the landscape through an interaction based on extraction by a culture that is either very young or has experienced a reset due to trauma. It is focused on a basic position of maintaining life, and the outcome is a deeply degraded landscape close to collapse. But cultures can heal fast, and we can evolve to other paradigms easier than we think, and even more if we are aware of it. The next paradigm develops cultures with more complex relationships with nature. In human history, this paradigm emerged when agricultural systems appeared. In present times, we can see this paradigm manifested in cultures which treat nature as a resource that we can use to improve our quality of life, such as through mining or large-scale agricultural ventures. In this paradigm, people are aware that if they destroy the ecosystem, they also destroy their privileged access to foods and other resources provided by nature. This makes land management practices less aggressive than the prior paradigm. However, cultures are still based on covering their materialistic needs, and the interaction with their ecosystem is based on scarcity and simplified relationships. By evolving these cultures a bit more, we enter the paradigm of sustainability. This is when communities start to understand that nature is not only fundamental to our materialistic needs, but is also deeply related to our health and our emotions, as well as our identity and culture itself. This sustainability paradigm wants to conserve and even restore the landscape and engages the population to reflect upon its impact upon the land and the planet in general, and to stop certain polluting practices. However, sustainable cultures are still anthropocentric and perceive human settlements as separate from natural ecosystems, but they do so with respect. Is there anything beyond sustainability? Maybe you have heard of regeneration? The regenerative paradigm leaves the anthropocentric approach behind, understanding nature as a living being within which we are embedded. This paradigm means that we become a conscious landscape. There's no separation anymore, because we are nature, and we treat nature as our home, as the matrix where we live in. To put it simply, we become conscious that we are landscape. The main features of this regenerative landscape are related to integration, abundance, and evolution. Culture expresses this landscape from a holistic perspective, and the systemic interactions with landscape are related to symbiosis and reciprocity. So, which is your paradigm? What is the essence of your landscape? And how deep do you want to go down the rabbit hole?
Hey, hi to everyone. This one, as you've seen, has a lot to do with the exercise that you already done. And what we're doing right now, if you go into the mural in number 14, we are now in the yellow phase. In the green phase. In the what are we? In the last landscape integrity, understanding that understanding what is it that we are coming from, right? It's what we're going to try to do in this session and the next session, to try to contextualize our cultures and our society, to be able to understand the storytelling, how everything evolves, and from knowing where and what we're coming from, it's way easier to know where it should be going to. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's trying to simply, there's Gregory Bateson said that one of the biggest problems that we have in our society is that we don't follow the rhythm of life, that we just cut it and evolving from a completely separated direction than what life is evolving. And if we're capable of connecting with this origin, the ancestral origin of where we're coming from, then we're going to be able to reconnect. It's like trying to graft ourselves from our ancestors and trying to mind the gap that the whole colonization and globalization had created. Okay, now, is there any questions about the process at this point, or for the session today, or what we're going to be working on? If there's no questions, then we would go to to do the breakout rooms for you guys to share the results of the exercise with your colleagues, and to be able to expose it and see how everything is going. And then when you come back, we're going to have a moment to actually share with the group the main learnings that you took from this process. Yeah? Cool. Awesome. Alex, do you want to do breakout rooms? This is going to be a 15-minute breakout room.
Have you received your? Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. Should I go to the room anyway, or should I stay here in the main room? Because I'm not gonna be able to join the discussion now.
Oh, that's okay. You can just hang out here if you want. Yeah,
No.
we don't bother you.
Okay, I'm gonna
Thank you, Annabelle.
Or Annabelle, maybe it's even better if you go to the
and I have it in the background, no?
yeah, maybe, I don't know. Maybe you can, you know, I don't know, at least see or how the other ones are talking about, or I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Ok, penya, quin puto estrès que porto a sobre avui, eh?
D'on veniu? Heu arribat justets, eh?
Sí, no, de currar a fondo.
A fondo, eh?
Perdona. Hi, Anna. ¿Qué tal? How are you? So good to see you. Were you in the other classes as well? I don't know if I... No. Is he doing okay? Well, are you guys all doing okay with the,
Yeah, we are.
earthquakes and
Got
everything?
some deadlines now also on top of all the other things, but
Oh, goodness. Okay.
it's
Animos.
all right.
Good. All right, welcome back. So I don't know, Oscar, if you wanted to facilitate a bit of a round before I get into the Haudenosaunee spaces for the, yeah.
Sure. Which have been the main learnings that you guys want to share about the exercise?
We spoke about that it's difficult to put ourselves or our organizations in one paradigm, but parts of us or part of the organization is one paradigm, another part of us is in another paradigm, and like this. But maybe there is tendencies that one can, we find regenerative tendencies or disruptive tendencies, no?
Great. Yeah, it's complex, no? And we're entering into complexity. And then when we try to create sorry, when we're trying to create a framework, trying to explain life, it never works. It's only useful to kind of see a little bit tendencies and to be able to, oh, that part, but it never works. It's like, as we said the other day, no, exception is the rule. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Who wanted to talk?
Kate.
Oh, Kate.
I don't know if you wanted to talk, but I'm jumping in. I kind of have a question, I guess, when I didn't spend that much time on the exercise and I didn't go into multiple layers. I just looked at myself and then the context of the NGO, that the communities I'd like to work with the NPO. And the thing is, like, actually a lot of are sitting like on that edge of trauma collapse, and the exercises like, how can we move them up the regenerative spiral? And I'm like, oh, move them up to conventional practice, like So I also have my own inner resistance, like I want to actually jump up like 4 or 5 steps, but I see like it's good restorative already, and actually in that learning for me was kind of like, oh, okay, maybe it's like, if I push the community too far, what I bring there is not going to either. So I guess my question is like, do I need to go like theoretically, like step by step? Like it's okay to just like grow some food and however you want to do it. And then next step, we'll start talking about organic. And then next step, like, I don't know, that's my...
As we said, no, it depends on each organization, and this is more kind of a guide to more or less know how the things go. But in our experience is that if you find an organization that it's very low and you start talking about very high regeneration levels, then they start telling like, that's utopia, who cares, that's not my priority, like why do you talk to me about ecology if what I want is food? And then like if you don't go it's not going step by step in the regenerative spiral, but it's like feeding in the organization with what they need, and not try to, not what sometimes maybe we're like, yeah, but if you guys would go there, it would be so good for you. But if they don't get it, or for them it's not a priority in that moment, then it just doesn't work.
Yeah, that was my reflection. Like, okay, actually, like,
Zia also has a question. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Kate.
thank you.
You're on.
Just thank you.
Oh no. Oh no. Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah,
No,
I
but
guess,
those are really good and provocative questions. And Eulalie also had some interesting comments if you want to check them out on Slack. Zia.
yeah, we were talking about it earlier. I raised the question, and I think I'm like really curious to hear what other folks think about the way that like how the like nonprofit industrial complex, like also like, I think it makes it so much harder to like move organizations and spaces up because of the way that like we rely on like funding and rely on like really hierarchical structures that then I think like really influence the way that organizations put priorities. That's something that like I was thinking a lot about and trying to figure out like how are ways that within that structure, within organizations that do rely on like grant funding and things like that, there's still the ability to create like those alternative spaces. And I guess I've seen it done differently in different organizations, and I'm curious to like hear their thoughts or ideas around that.
Okay, I think, I don't know if I got you completely well, but what I feel is like what you're talking about, it's like moments that there's a lot of accumulation of power and a lot of really rigid structures. Then is that where you're going? It's like if the system is very big, like with a lot of accumulation of power and really rigid structures, means that the structural violence, it's quite important. It's not at the level of collapse of trauma, but it's quite important. And you're getting quite close to the glass ceiling. That it's one of the more challenging moments that you have to cross in the regenerative spiral, because up to that level, everyone wants to cover the needs, like the needs of food, the needs of sickness, the needs of shelter, the need, all the basic needs, or the needs of materialism. But when you're at the highest levels of the lowest part, like there's a moment, like there's a perspective that you think that that's all you need. You have money, you have safety, you have prestige. What else is there to offer? You know, it's like, what else do I need if I have all of that? But then it's when you change from me to we. And that's the biggest challenge, like the understanding of that process, and that's the glass ceiling. It's the most challenging one by far. Josh?
Hi there. Yeah, I was kind of holding on to this question, but I think that was related there, and I'd maybe like you to go further. So imagine, I feel like a lot of, if I look at the nested system I would have done in, a lot of it is greenwashing, and it seems like it's an unintentional phase to be in. And if everyone, like the next goal is to go up into sustainability, but like Zia said, you can be bound by the hierarchical process where you're working and doing things, but you're reliant on other people to fund you or whatever. and they're not thinking the same way. So how, I think that's what you're saying with the we. How do you get to that next? It just gets me so stuck, you know. I find it's like you're just bound. You kind of hit well, now you're getting the glass ceiling. I hit the ceiling, you know.
Yes, I mean, the whole process that we're doing with the Willand, it's actually a little bit about that. It's how can you root yourself in a place that helps you to propose the things from a different place, that it's not confrontative. Because like if you try, I think we already said that last session, but the global empire is the most competitive system that has been ever created. If you want to compete with it, you're going to lose. There's no way. But if you learn to really collaborate and start collaborating with everyone and start co-creating with everyone, even though at the beginning seems counterintuitive, that it seems that if everyone is competing, what I need to do is to think about myself. But if instead of that, you start collaborating with everyone and co-creating with everyone, even with the system that is competing with you, even with them, then there's a moment that you're capable of leaving the system obsolete. That the system has nothing to do, because when you have we're going to go deeper into this, but when you find a restriction, if you compete with a restriction, if someone is telling you you cannot do that, then you're trying to compete with that limit. But if instead of competing with the limit, what you do is to include that limit in your strategy, the next time that the system or the organization tells you you cannot do that, it's like, yeah, I agree, I cannot do that. That's why I'm doing it this other way. Then thank you so much for your feedback. And what else can you offer me for me to actually improve in what I'm actually proposing? And then you're kind of doing Aikido, like the system is clearly more strong, it's way stronger than us. Then the only way that we actually can deal with it, it's by doing Aikido to it. Then every time that they go against us, we accept that energy, that strength, and we include it in ourselves to be able to offer something that is much, much better every single time. And then a competitive organization is not capable to fight with you because you don't fight. And every single time that they offer you, it's the same. When you all heard, right? If you fight with the system gets stronger, right? It's like you fight with the system, they put the riot police. If you fight with the riot police, they contract more riot police. Like there's no way of winning, right? But the same way, if you collaborate every time they attack you, every time that you collaborate, you get stronger. And every time they attack you, by collaboration, you get stronger. You know what I mean? Like we're like the whole process is about this. Then we're gonna go deeper in it, but I think that the point that you guys are touching, it's a very, very, very important one.
Yeah, can I just say one other thing? Yeah, I think this image I have in my head a lot is like there's one side that goes this way and there's one side that goes this way, and one kind of, you know, does away with the other side. But as you say, if you keep collaborating, you can almost just keep coming back and keep coming back. And then the more of that happens, the more potential in it going the other side.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Exactly. And relating to a question, thank you, Josh. It's like when by collaborating, you're transforming them too. You know, like if it's real collaboration, they're not going to be in their paradigm anymore. And that's really, you know, what we're trying to do is like everybody has to move up. You know, like why did Trump win? Why, you know, does Vox in Spain get so many votes? It's because like we need to like do a concerted effort to push the whole system up, not just, you know, the people who are the closest allies to us. Right? So I'm just going to flag a couple concepts which we have in the calendar for not next week, but the week after. And then also really like we have a whole session. So these are really important questions that you've all been asking. But reconciliation is one of them, like a method that we can use to work on reconciling leverage points. Right? So wicked problems, transforming them into leverage points and scaling it up. So just if you want to flag that. And yeah, maybe I'll just leave it at that because I actually have to go into my bit now. but yeah, if you have questions also on chat, Oscar can also be on it, and on Slack as well. So if you want to move back into the mural, I see a whole bunch of little people floating around here, which is great. If you can click onto number 16, so storytelling. Yeah. So this is the medicine wheel of the Hornoshoni Nation. I was honored with having a mentor at the Six Nations Haudenosaunee community. So that's near Brantford and Hamilton in Southern Ontario, which is where I kind of grew up. Janice Longboat, so she shared a lot of her teachings with me, and then I continued on and did a university degree in Indigenous education. So this is coming from there. Whenever I explain it though, I always honor her, Janice Longboat from the Haudenosaunee Nation, for sharing these teachings. And if you do want to share these teachings, always, always, always honor where they come from. And as you all know, especially those who come from the permaculture movement, or even dragon dreaming, or a lot of them are inspired directly from Indigenous teachings from specific nations. So today I just wanted to share a little bit about the Haudenosaunee medicine wheel, which is actually really similar to what I use as the Chicana from Peru. But this one, just simply because I've worked in a professional setting with lots of communities in Canada, I wanted to share, above all else, the structure of it, and also the importance of how stories are embedded in this framework, in this medicine wheel. So this medicine wheel is, and you find it in homes, you find it in the shapes of the gardens in a lot of Mohawk families. You find this shape also woven into their blankets, and it's like you would find in Peru, in the Chicana. You will also find in many, many, many places of ceremony, but also house, like domestic spaces as well. And these are frameworks that really help us understand complexity, right? I'm going to be kind of shifting between Chicana and the medicine wheel, just because my growing up was with the Chicana. So my grandmother, who lived with us, was from the Andes of Peru. And I remember when I was very, very small, and she showed me her Chicana, which is, it's like an Andean cross is also what it's called. So it's got the 3 bumps on all 4 sides, and then a circle in the middle. And she said, "This is the only thing you need to know to understand the world." And I was like, I don't know, maybe 6, and I was like, "What? It's just like a star." What does that mean? And I'm like over 40 now. I'm still understanding how complex, these frameworks can be. So, and she was right. She really was. So in Mohawk territory, they use this for teaching about agriculture, about how the stars move in the skies, about youth and growing up. They teach how to find medicines in the forest. They use it for absolutely everything. And so I'm going to go kind of lightly over the 4 directions, but then I wanted to give you guys an assignment to kind of work out in groups, and then another one in your free time. So they always, of course, start with the east, which is where the sun rises. And the east is where there's the element of fire, but also where the sun is. This is a place also, this is a circle that people use for Thanksgiving. This is where everything begins. So there's the energy of springtime, of being born, so infancy and childhood. There's the sacred medicine. So here in Haudenosaunee territory, it'd be tobacco. In Peru, it's coca. because they use actually the same, very, very similar, same 4-direction base, and then 3 directions above, which would make it 7. The next, then you always go clockwise. So from the east, then you move to the south, right? And this is the goal is to live in balance with yourself. And this is when you enter into youth, right? And so here, the element is water, and we also give thanks to the moon that lives in the south. This is the phase of summer. So if we're teaching about organizations or communities, it's a little bit more mature, but not fully mature. It's kind of in this very energetic phase as well. And the medicine here is cedar also, because it helps give protection in a phase where everything is so new and explosive as well. And then when you move into the West, this is learning about living in balance with others. Here you'll find the element of earth, but also Mother Earth herself. And here is the phase is fall. And this is also just a moment, especially when we're teaching about it in the schools where I used to teach, where we start harvesting lessons, harvesting fruit. And it's a moment of really harnessing everything that you've learned so far and be able to give back in a really, really meaningful way. It's exemplified by adulthood. And adulthood, as Janice Longboat would say, comes at any age. You could be 25, you could be 45, you can be younger or older. So it is a phase and not an age. And when you move from there, the goal is to balance, to live in balance with land, right? So this is really a lot of like what regenerative development is about, you know. When I learned about regenerative development, the first thing that came into mind was the medicine wheel, because of this, because it is really, really centered in how to understand land integrity and how to be landscape and be land. And that's in the north, really, where this lands. And the element is air, the astral symbol is stars, but this is winter time. This is where elders live, where elders flourish, our ancestors, our grandmothers and grandfathers. Here's the medicine is sweet grass in the north, and in Peru it is something actually that smells almost the same, surprisingly, or not. Which is Palo Santo, if anybody has traveled to South America. And so it goes on, right? And then you always go back to the east and you say, if you're doing the Thanksgiving address, we return once again to the east where things begin and begin once again. And then we always finish giving thanks to the sky and to the earth and to oneself, completing the 7 directions. And so we had a couple of questions for you to reflect on. One is to, but this is something maybe I'll just put on Slack, but I'll just throw it out now, is to reflect on those, the frameworks that are all around you. So maybe it's something ancestral, maybe it's something spiritual or religious, maybe it's something from the activist world, and how that helps you understand complexity. How that could be the only thing you really need to understand life, you know? So that, I'll just throw that out as a reflection question. But in your small groups, at the side of the slide 13, you have Story of Place as a small title, and then we have 5 questions, which is linked to an activity called Story of Place. And this I recommend highly as a really provocative and deep diving dialogue activity with groups. We've done this with groups of up to almost 100 people, and it was profound, the patterns and the consensus that emerged when we talked about these questions. So in your groups, if you can kind of take a moment to connect to your place of origin at an individual level, and then share your reflections, and then we'll continue explaining this, linking it to the homework at the end of the session. Sound good?
Let's do groups of 2 people where yeah, only 2 I think, because then they're gonna have a little bit more time. Only 2 people, and you do like 7 minutes and 7 minutes, or 6 and 6 more or less. It's well, and you take your 6 minutes to do the whole thing, and the other one listens, and then the other way around. Yeah. Awesome. See you in a bit. Have fun. Sorry. It was just about try to answer the different questions that were in the story of place, and just like one talking and the other listening, and then the other way around.
Yes, we did that, but in relation to what? Our origin, where we come from, our family, our village?
Yeah, in relationship to your place. Maybe I wasn't clear about that then.
The place where we come from?
Or the place where you live, you can choose.
Okay, then we understood it okay then.
Okay, awesome. Then everyone else, everyone was okay with the exercise? Yeah?
Took us a while to, let's say, as you were saying, the more we reflect on these systemic tools and the more we use them, the more you get the systemic view. But it took us a while, like, okay, so it's my origins in this circle. So how do we place ourselves there? So it was a little bit of some minutes to really get into the exercise. It was tough, but then we got there, and I think, yeah, we got it right. And it was a very nice process.
Cool, nice. Some other learning or question or comment, whatever?
We would like to comment that it was quite hard for us to do the exercise, and as we were talking with Paula, we came to the same conclusion that we are given new and complex material now, and we have to answer deep and complex questions now. And I think those things needs time. We should have this material before to already start to assimilate what we need to deal with, and more time to answer those deep questions, because and we are lacking also guidance from you to really pinpoint, okay, what are we talking about? Origin as where I'm born, my country, my ethnic origins. It could be so many different things that, and so we never really know if we're really answering the right question.
Yeah, and it felt like a shame because they're really valuable questions, and you want to know that you're following the right track. I had just gone to the bathroom and come back and just jumped into it, but it would be really lovely just at the beginning to have like a sentence or two, just explaining it. I felt like we maybe missed out on a really good exercise there to get the most of the benefit out of it. So sorry.
No. Yeah, I think the way we're thinking is the other way around. No, like now we're doing a small exercise here, but the exercise for the week, it's this one, but amplified. Like, I guess we could also do it the other way around and like give you the information of this session beforehand instead of doing the exercise afterwards. But if we do both, I feel like maybe some people it's going to be like, that's too much work, or, you know, and then we kind of choose only to do the afterwards. Then what we're trying to do here is to do small bits for you to be able to get into asking questions about the doubts and the difference that are there. And then when you go into the exercise for the week, the things should be a little bit more clear. You know what I mean? Because the exercise for the week, it's very similar to this, but with a little bit more complexity. And the idea of the exercise is that you kind of connect with the origins of, you can choose where you were born or where you live right now, or even you could apply it to an organization and think about the origin of the organization. Like, because it's systemic, you can apply to anything. Okay, but I take the feedback, and I'll be more clear in the next exercise.
Oscar,
Yes.
can I?
Go ahead, Paula.
What I felt, this exercise for me, it was good, but yes, as Kevin said, we had a lot of doubts. But what I feel for the general exercises and frameworks that we are working on is that maybe we lack some examples, because for some of us this is the first time that we are hearing about these things, and it's hard to assimilate all of these things in the session. I feel that I need to review all the sessions, to replay them, to take notes, to read a lot more in order to understand. So I think that what Kevin means is we've just heard of this framework and it seemed great, but maybe we would feel more comfortable to do the exercise if we had an example first. I don't know, I've seen that some other people also asked for an example. I don't know if it's a general feeling, but I feel this would help a lot. Thank you.
Okay, awesome, perfect. If you see that I'm going too fast or something for the time I don't give an example, just please remind me, but I'll keep that in mind, okay? Awesome, then let's move to the next one. The next one, the one that it says interdependence or evolution. The whole thing about that Erica was talking about, the medicine wheel, it's the way that the native people and the indigenous communities around the world used to explain complexity. They explain complexity through these graphic systemic frameworks. Well, we call it frameworks, they call it cosmovision, because it's such a big framework that explains everything, and it even has like the spiritual realm in it. Then it's like, it's not a framework, it's like a whole thing. It's sacred, right? And that is based on pattern language. As you've seen, you can put sweetgrass, stars, elders, and winter in the same thing. Things that apparently has nothing to do one with each other. They belong to the same quadrant. Because here we're talking about patterns, and then when you're dealing with complexity, thinking in patterns, it's very, very helpful. Because if we try to understand a little bit what's going on, like, no, if we see how we have been evolving for all these ages, in that we had, you all seen that thing, right? That there's like, if the story of the humanity of the planet would have passed in 24 hours, the humans would appear in the 14 minutes to 12 at night, and our modern history would be appearing 1 second before noon, before midnight, right? It's like, and we belong here. We have been evolving from all this history of ages. I've seen the same thing explained from, if you take a distance from Barcelona to Madrid, that is around 600 kilometers, the humans appear 1 meter already in the main square of Madrid, the Plaza España in Madrid. Inside the Plaza España, 1 meter from the center of the Plaza España is then when the humans appear. It's hilarious. Our modern history appears like 10 centimeters before the center of the plaza. And we belong to all that history. All that complexity should be somehow reflected in our decisions, but it's impossible to be able to understand all of that in concepts. We cannot do that. Like, we cannot do like even a small part of that, right? Have you heard about the Gaia Theory? there was a man that was actually quite known in the 70s because he used to work for the NASA, the spaceship agency of United States. And he was looking for life out of Earth. And suddenly he realized that but from Earth, being on Earth, then he realized that the only way to look for life out of Earth would be to see if there was, in the planet, there was something that would show that the whole planet is alive. As for example, in the Earth, there's 4% of methane gas in balance in the atmosphere. But methane gas, it's not a gas that can be in balance. It can, if you leave methane gas, it will oxidize and disappear. But if you find that there's always like a permanent 4% of methane gas in a system, it's because someone is creating that methane gas. And if someone is creating it, means that there's someone alive, right? Then when he realized that, he said that, can I do the same thing on Earth? And then he started studying that. And he created the hypothesis Gaia. And he started seeing so many relationships all over the planet, everywhere. Like how can the sea keep the percentage of salt constant if all the rivers of the planet are bringing salt to the sea all the time, right? It's quite crazy because the degree of the percentage of salt in the sea should be increasing, but it's not, because the Earth creates spaces for salt that where the sea goes away, and that's the water evapors, and you then have a salt mine, and it keeps having the balance. And there's thousands of these things. And then with all these relationships, he started to talk about homeostasis. And homeostasis, it's how life on Earth creates the perfect conditions for life on Earth to evolve. And how in some moments, the bacteria, the residue, the garbage, I don't know how to say that, of the bacteria was oxygen. That was the perfect thing, that was the right molecule that was capable of creating more energy for the living beings that were coming after. And therefore, the living beings that came after were bigger and more capable of doing other things because they used what was coming out of the bacteria, right? And if we keep seeing how this whole thing evolves, to be able to create the whole complexity that now it's all over the Earth, and one synergy with the other, creating millions and millions of symbiosis all over the place, all that complexity that we're not capable of understanding, it's what created us. And as you see in this diagram, like our composition, it's quite similar of Earth's composition, just because we belong to Earth and not the other way around, because we come from Earth. And therefore, if we want to create anything, if we want to go back to the rhythm of life, what we need to do is to graft ourselves in the story of our place, because we are part of it. Like if your town, when you look at your town and you look geologically at your town, you're going to see that your town is created by whatever, like first geological structure. In my case, it's basalt. I live in a volcanic zone, and we have a lot of basalt. And then over that layer of geological structure, we have the orography that is creating the shapes that give north and south, and that creates the whole shape of the rivers and the waters, that defines where the water is, defines where the people goes closer or farthest. And if when it's north or south, defines if in my place, in the south face, we have evergreen oaks, alzinas that we call it, and in the north side we have oak trees. It's a completely different one, and ones are used to make fire and the other ones to build. Then it depends on where you live. Like if someone would be a charcoal finder, would probably live in the north side because it would be way easier around his house to be able to collect the wood to be able to do the charcoal. And if you would live in the north side, you probably would be a carpenter or maybe a shepherd, because it depends on what. But then when you go into the whole culture of the community, that it's related, like a whole town is beside a river in a place that there's oak trees, then you start seeing how that whole thing is evolving and creating a specific culture that is completely related to the orography, geology, and biology of the place. You could find the different layers of your place to understand the pattern that is creating yourself and the culture of your community. And if then you put the patterns of your community on top and you try to find something that works together, you could find the essence of the whole thing. Or said in other words, the story of place. That is what a lot of native people would explain to the coming generations for them to understand what's important and which is the rhythm of life in that place. Do you know what I mean? I see faces here of like, what? Is there questions around this?
Well, it makes me think that well, I feel that our societies are so disconnected from nature that it is a great example, but now like culture is not evolving in relation to landscape, to nature anymore.
No, it's not. Our resources come in trucks as well as our garbage. In my place, for example, we don't have oil, then we don't produce plastics, but we still spend, it's a community of 50,000 people, and we spend 14 million euros a year in dealing with garbage, in non-compostable garbage, that 100% of it comes in trucks to our region because we don't produce it, we don't have oil. But we don't pay for that when we go to the supermarket. We don't pay for it because I don't know why, but we don't pay for that when we go to the supermarket. Then we go to the supermarket to buy something cheap, and then we pay our government to deal with all those plastics. And if the supermarkets had to pay for those 40 million euros, then it would be balanced with the agroecological. The price would be balanced with the agroecological foods. But we're funding the supermarkets and their garbage. I never understood why.
Oh, there is a nice documentary called Plastic War, which talks about marketing of plastic and how it became so essential in our lives. So very, I recommend it.
Like, do you guys live who lives in a city? And the people that doesn't live in a city and lives in a town, how often do you go to the mountain? Like the people that lives in a town, can you say that you're not urban people? I live in a town, and most of the time I don't go to the mountain. I go from one place that it's asphalt to another place that it's asphalt. I buy everything in the supermarket. I'm completely outside of the rhythm of life most of the time. I have no idea which are the resources that I can take. I have no idea which is in many moments I don't even know which are the fruits that are coming from the forest. Are you connected with what's going on in your surroundings? Some people is. I know Gerard is. And Kevin and Anna seem so. But if we're not connected with it, then it's very, very difficult to actually feel that we belong into our place and that we can connect from it and make decisions that are not our decisions, but the decisions of the place being expressed through us. You know what I mean? Is there any more questions about the Gaia theory? Like, I really recommend the book for all the people that doesn't know it. There's like 5 or 6 books about it, but the one that it's Gaia theory, it's amazing for the people who, yeah. It's the, exactly Maya. It's a lot of science, but it's quite well explained, and it's very interesting to be able to understand what's homeostasis and the complexity that comes from it. Then I'm going to jump into autopoiesis, and then we're going to do the breakout room, okay? Have you ever heard of autopoiesis, the word? Do you know what it means? No one? When James Lovelock, the guy that created the theory Gaia, wrote the book, like, everyone in the science world was against him because he was saying that the planet Earth was alive. And a lot of people says that, right? But he said it in a scientific way, objectively, and he was demonstrating it through science. And all the scientifics were trying to kind of go against him and even ridiculize him. But he was actually a pretty good scientist. And then he just kept writing books about how the planet Earth is alive. And at the end, the hypothesis Gaia became the theory Gaia with Lynn Margulis, another very known microbiologist from the Berkeley University in California, that it's like a renowned microbiologist that died some years ago. And after that came the holistic science, a whole line of science that was like with Fritjof Capra, Umberto Maturana, Francisco Varela, Ken Wilber, and many others. One of them, Umberto Marella, actually, with Umberto Maturana with Francisco Varela, they were biologists, and they wrote a book called Biology of Love, something that is not well accepted also in the science world. And they wanted to define what life is. And to be able to define what life was, they actually got into the concept of autopoiesis. Poiesis is an interesting thing that it comes from Greek, and it's the root of production and poetry at the same time. And it's what it says, it's something that it evolves and it's being created organically and in an emerging way. It's production and poetry at the same time. And autopoiesis, what it means, it's that while to be alive, I need to be able to modify my context while my context is modifying me. And that is evolution. Then, therefore, evolution is not something that always improves to a better stage, but it depends on what I do to my context. If I destroy my context, then the destroyed context, it's going to be affecting me. And we're going to be evolving together in a degenerative way. But if I actually generate a positive impact to my context, and my context, with all that abundance, it's affecting me, we're going to be regenerating each other. Right? It's like John Sterman from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, that he was one of the, he's still alive and like considered one of a very, very intelligent person, was proposing this, that normally an open loop perspective that it's basically linear. It's identify the problem, gather data, evaluate alternatives, select solution, and implement. That it's normally, nowadays, almost all organizations work like that. And he was actually proposing that instead of that, we should actually be able to look it from a systemic perspective and to be able to set goals, make decisions, pay attention to our side effects, let them monitor the state of the system, generate collaborations with other people to be able to modify the state of the system, and then monitor that to keep going. You know, where he's already talking about the restorative or reconciliatory level of the regenerative spiral, where we actually collaborate, creating common goals to be able to affect the system that it's for everyone in a positive way.
So,
Are you?
can
Go
I
ahead.
okay. So imagine that I do modify my context in a positive way. It would modify me, or it would impact me in a positive way, but it would also impact other people in a positive way. But this doesn't mean that they, as a feedback, do have a positive impact. So at a certain point, then you're kind of fighting between positive and negative, I have the feeling, because we're all interdependent, no? So then it goes on domination, like how big is the force that does a positive impact compared to the negative impact or the neutral impact? Do I understand it good, or?
Yes, perfect. And this is very similar to the question that Zia and Josh did at the beginning, and I can put an example of that. On that, like you have for example, in here, no, in our region, we have like there's an ecosystem of capitalist companies, well, normal companies, no, conventional companies, and 90% of the companies are like conventional companies. And all of these companies, their internal structure is to look for themselves. And if they generate a relationship with another company, it's for their own interest. But there's not they don't have a common strategy. They have a common interest. They both agree that if they generate that collaboration, they both going to have a benefit from that relationship, but there's not a common goal. There's no common goal. There's a common interest. It's very different. If you try to generate, to create a cooperative company in the middle of this ecosystem, one of them, it's going to be very, very hard to actually survive, because you're going to be dealing with rules that are completely different. Then internally, you're going to be trying to collaborate, but externally, when you try to collaborate, no one is going to be willing to collaborate with you. Then you're going to be completely alone. And it's going to be really, really, really difficult for you to be, because you're going to keep giving and they're going to keep taking. Then you're going to end without anything at all, right? Then if what you want is to actually have a co-op, what you need to do is to be able to create several co-ops, or accompany other people to create co-ops, or try to create a cooperative ecosystem that you can start, even like in a smaller space, start giving ones to the others. This way, even if it's closed, this system is going to get strong and it's going to start growing. But growing in a cooperative way, it's not the same as in the competitive or the conventional way. In the conventional way, when you grow, it's the company that gets bigger. Where in the cooperative way, when you grow, it's the ecosystem that gets bigger. Like, have you heard about, have you been or lived in an eco-village? Or in a community or whatever?
I have, yeah.
Then when you live in an eco-village, that's what happens, right? Like what you do is to live in a place that it's at the beginning, at least, you create a boundary where inside everything is possible and you can change any rule. And you can start creating a completely different culture. But outside, the relation with outside, it's very difficult and very hard sometimes, unless there's other people in similar communities that you can create this type of relationship. But if you're alone in that eco-village, it's going to be very, very, very hard to actually survive or evolve, because everyone else is going to be looking at you in ways that are going to be very challenging. Then the other way that the only way that you can actually evolve is by empowering other projects that are like yours and to be able to create an ecosystem. And here, it's much easier to be able to evolve together. A collaborative ecosystem needs collaboration to survive. A competitive ecosystem, it can survive. It just keeps getting bigger until it gets to a monopoly. You know, are completely different mindsets. Yeah, what do you think? Questions, comments, stories? Kevin, what do you think? Okay, guys, then what would you like to do? Another small breakout room? Let's give it 10 minutes and then we're going to have 10 more minutes for the opening. 10 minutes. And the question is, you're going to love it. If the other one was confusing, this one is going to be even more. What are we? That's the question. What are we? Then if you try to think about the different levels of your place, small, like this is the exercise for the week, but it's just for you to start thinking a little bit about it. If you try to think a little bit about the different levels of your place, geology, biology, like just, or even just look around, what is it, the place that you are, and try to just make sense of it a little bit, and try to think and try to answer, even though it's very difficult, what are you? And not who are you, but what are you?
Could you give an example, Oscar?
It's to try to find as I said, it's to try to find the essence. Like for us, it's very difficult to see the difference between someone from Norway and someone from Greece.
Yeah,
but if you look at the Shipibo people in the Amazon, what they are is the stewards of the Amazon forest. Their role, they have a role the same way that the trees and the jaguars and the different animals have inside of the forest. And the role is they are the stewards. They keep the relations healthy, you know, as well as the Inuit up north. You know, each one of them have a role in their ecosystem, and that's the what. What's your role in your ecosystem?
Can I ask a question?
Go for it.
Yeah, what do you mean by biological factors? Can you give a few examples?
Biological, in this case, would be, in my case, is that I live in a place that it's caducifolious trees, mainly caducifolious trees, that we don't have, at this point, we don't have predators, and we have a certain type of mammals and certain types of trees that are the ones that define the ecosystem and the place. Those would be the biological factors. But I think You can go deep and very deep in these things, but at least think a little bit of geology, orography, or I'm saying that right, orography, it's the morphology, the shape of the mountains and the valleys and everything. And the third one, biologically and culturally. Just try it out. Just give it a try and let's see what comes out. 10 minutes, okay?
And Oscar, first we
Yes.
think like just one question, like what are we? Or also we start by reflecting on what am I?
What are you?
What? Okay.
Yes, well, you can think about what are you in this case as a person if you want because you're going to be talking about your place, then you can think individually if you want.
But it's something we're gonna do with other people, right? And we have to come up with what are we?
Oh, no,
Okay.
not in the group. No, more kind of
Okay,
a
okay.
conversation of
All right.
each one in your place, because I don't think there's a common answer. Probably there's different answers for different things by different people. Okay, let's give it a little bit less than 10 minutes. Let's give it like 8 minutes or something. We'll call you back in 8 minutes, okay? Just try it out, okay? Alex, ¿os envías?
Un altre cop m'ha tornat a fallar. No sé per què. Preguntava en Òscar el títol de 2 llibres, el de Gaia Theory, que ha recomanat, i el de Biology of Love, potser que hagis dit també.
Humberto Maturana, La biología del amor, és en castellà, és xilè.
Humberto Maturana. No. Vale. I el de Gaia Theory?
En teoria Gaia, però té com 10 llibres. Aquest pavo... Ei, Kevin!
Ara els envio.
Alex, can you hear me?
Yeah.
We have sound problems again. I don't know what it is, but we came into the room, no sound. We came back here, no sound.
Try the same as I told you. Try to leave Zoom and enter again.
Okay, I'm gonna leave.
Yep.
Hopefully come back again in time, and if you can put us back into room 2.
Yep.
Abel is waiting for us. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
En James Lovelock té 101 anys i està escrivint un llibre, tio.
És el de Gaia Theory?
No l'escriu ell, el dicta, però com si l'escrivís. O sigui, ell el dicta i hi ha una persona que ve allà i li escriu el llibre. Però té 101 anys el fill de puta i està escrivint un llibre.
Hagués molat que haguessis dit que l'estava escrivint a mà o alguna cosa. Let's try again, Kevin. I put you in room 2. Aviam.
Bueno, s'ha anat movent, en penya. Hem pujat a 29 i hem tornat a baixar a 25.
Sí. El teu nebot ha desaparegut al primer Breakout Room.
Ah, sí?
Sí, però ja l'he vist al principi. I és això, hem baixat d'això. Unes 10 persones. Però bueno, és normal també. Hi ha gent que per treballar li va malament. A mi m'ha escrit molta gent dient-me que, hòstia, puc venir a mitja sessió, puc venir a la primera hora, puc venir només a l'última hora, o avui tinc un compromís. Llavors s'ho miren online i ja està. Però,
sí, jo crec que són 12 setmanes, o sigui, jo crec que aniran entrant i sortint.
Sí, i tant, segur. Passa que de gent nova ja no n'entra, diguéssim. Són gent que a vegades
no.
poden venir, a vegades no.
No, i que sí. Jo crec que was it. You know what you are?
Yeah, it was cool. It was a nice conversation.
Yeah.
And we agree that the people are the parasites of the earth.
That's very nice.
I have to say something. I had to do something, so I lost everything. Like what she said, I completely lost the exercise. So she explained it to me a little bit,
Okay.
and I think we spoke from there. But yeah, I missed everything, so I didn't really know. Guys.
Okay. Well, the conclusion is that we are parasites.
But there's hope also.
Sorry?
But there's hope also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Then we're at 58, and I'm aware that some people need to go at 6. Is there like someone that it's like urging to explain what you got from the exercise or what you didn't got from the exercise?
I can share, I can report, because it was very nice. Okay, Josh escaped, he wasn't with us, but I was with Anna Maria, and we were like, well, it was me provoking her, and like that we are from village and we feel very farmers, even if we live in the city for some time, but that this is if you were born in a village and you were, I don't know, raised with chicken and cows and everything, you always carry this with you. Although like in Europe, I don't know, you go in the city and they say like that you are farmer, like this was something bad, but at the end is the most sophisticated way to be, to produce your own food and to work with your hands. So this is what we were talking about, that we are farmers.
Nice.
Ana Maria here. Yeah, I guess we were focusing a lot on the, like, we didn't quite find 10 milestones, but like from this, like the cultural aspect, I mean, just this image of the farmer, I think it already gives a lot.
It does.
Of the significance, especially looking at it from a positive aspect.
Thank you. Then, guys, the exercise for this week, it's exactly what you've just done, but with a little bit more time, with the, like for the week, and to see if you want to deepen a little bit in it. Like the proposal, it's find 10 milestones of geological level. Like just a little bit to kind of explain which are the main important geological actions, no, it's not actions, effects that defined your place, which are the 10 main biological, I can't have the word now. Well, the 10 milestones that define biologically, that define your ecosystem, the ecosystem where you live in, and the 10 milestones that define you culturally. And when you got all those milestones, try to create the story of your place. And the story of your place having the little bit of the guide, you know, the script that we had before in the mural, from the origin to which is the legacy that you want to leave behind. Normally, to understand the legacy, like normally we think about 100 years from now, because it's not only the legacy that we are going to leave behind, but if you think about 100 years from now, it means that all the persons that you know are going to be dead. And then when you think about that, there's almost no ego into what you're thinking. There's only like, the only thing that comes out is something that is generous. We use that trick a lot in participation. And when people think about 100 years from now, the things that are coming out, it's always something about generosity, and it's very interesting. Sorry, Judith, go ahead.
No, thank you. Well, I do have a challenge that I think more other people have, that I'm not in one geography. So I was raised for 23 years in one place, and now I live 5 in another place. So is it okay if I just incorporate both, or like what I feel it's relevant for my person, or?
I would recommend you to choose one and go with that one. Well, if what you wanted to like investigate yourself, then go with both, because maybe you get things from both places. But the story of place is to be able to act from the place that you live right now.
Exactly. So I should focus in the place where I want to act on.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Great.
That's much better.
Yes. Thank you.
Good luck with the exercise. And is there any more questions? No? Great. Then see you next week and enjoy the week.
Stop. Oscar,
Yeah.
Oscar, last question.
Yes.
Sorry, we are not clear about what you mean, if you're using the right word when you say milestones, to like biological milestones or cultural milestones.
It's just the fetus in Catalan or in Spanish.
Like they are points, because a milestone is an achievement to another.
Like
It's-
normally a milestone is something big that happened, like you were 21 and then 50, graduated, married, these things.
Exactly. Then
Yeah.
at planet level, when like, but for your region, which if like you're in an island, when was that island created? Where, like, one example, in Boston, in the east of United States, there's a river. That river separates two places. Those places have very different cultures. And by looking at the story of place of each one of them, they found out something, that when Pangea was created, the other side of the river was actually coming from Africa directly. And in this side of the river, like, was part of the mainland. Then the substrate of the place was completely different. One was very hard, and the other one was very fertile. And what emerged from each one of them was completely different. When one culture was much more like, one was very empathic, very open, much more like engaging, and at the other side of the river, the people were much more harsh, much more cold, strong workers, like very focused, like completely different characters based on the piece of land that they were living on. You know what I mean?
So you're asking us to do like a chronological study for each of those points?
Yeah, but only like the 10 more important things. Like if you come from, yeah, just a little. If you have time.
From the birth of the island, or from the earth creation till now.
But it could be something very small, like very small. It's like just the island was created from here, and then there was a volcano that did that. Just to try to find the pattern. You can do 5 instead, but if like it's to be able to see if you can find patterns. That is like, oh, there's a pattern here. Oh, that pattern is also at biological level. Oh, and that pattern is also culturally. You know.
Okay, perfect.
Like,
thank you. That helps a lot.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.
Thank you all.